two issues this morning. Number one, it's high tide again. And the tides on this part do get rather high. So there's probably not going to be too much beach to stand on or to even photograph on. A little kind of beige down there I might go take a bimble at. The other issue, which is the more pressing issue, is despite it being pretty nice conditions overhead, a few nice kind of fluffy clouds, as is quite often the case, heavy bank of cloud on the horizon. Now, of course, the sun will break through that at some point, but it may not be for another hour. So we'll probably lose those really soft tones, those really soft hues. But we might take a bimble down here, potentially. See what's to do. If I can get down there. But the beach that I was going to go to, which is down here, I think it's going to be, the tide's going to be too high. Now, it looks quite calm, which might be in my favour, but we'll go take a look. So this is the last morning in Malin Head. I'm going to do a couple of hours shooting down here, go back, get packed up at the hostel, and then start making my way homeward bound. Where a little Prezzy's waiting on me. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Right. Oh, that's good. So here we are down at the water's edge. And as I have said a few times before, not rushing into it. Again, the temptation is that sun's going to come up and go crazy. I'm just trying to kind of look to see what potentially could work. Both foreground interest and especially trying to see what sort of lines, if any, the waves are making. And I don't think they are really. They're just really coming in and hitting this little ridge and flowing back out again. So most of the dynamic nature of the foreground would be actually the swirls around the rocks. Plenty of potential foreground interest here. As I say, that sun just starting to light the tips of that bank of cloud. And that dawn light starting to kind of come into the water here. And with a long exposure, that will help bring some light into the foreground. Not yet really illuminating the rocks. Quite a messy beach. Not messy in terms of rubbish, although as always there is rubbish. Just messy as in lots of footprints, lots of kind of seaweed, none of it that pretty looking. So I'm kind of thinking initial composition kind of pointing out this way. Just on the horizon there is the lighthouse that I was photographing previously from Malin Head. So we'll get set up here. Again, just to give me a bit more versatility, and because this beach is quite messy, I'm probably going to stick with the 18-135 for now. Hopefully maybe this cloud will gain a bit of colour as that sun comes up further. So just a few thought processes. Thinking long exposure again, probably at this time of the morning, sun not yet risen. I probably could just do with a 4-stop ND filter, and I'm going to need a grad on there as well. So always thinking, always processing what your kind of setup's going to be. So when you come to actually get your camera kit out, you're a well-oiled machine. Let the oiling commence. So as I thought, 3-stop ND grad, 4-stop ND filter. Sun is just starting to peak above the bank of clouds. So I've actually gone for an f/16. maybe trying to get a bit of a sunburst. And I'm actually shooting bracketed exposures, not necessarily again to do any kind of HDR per se, but just again to give me the most creative scope when it comes to post-processing. Still not 100% happy with the composition, and just before the sun's kind of hitting the water, this bit with a longer exposure just looks a little bit muddy. Maybe it'll improve as the sun comes up. So the plan would be to shoot, well, personally, to shoot into the sun until it probably just gets beyond that bank of cloud, and then I'm going to turn away and hopefully start shooting away from the sun, but the rocks, the foreground, and in fact the little harbour should be illuminated. Oh, little trawler heading out to sea. Also not overly impressed with still having to leave my bag on the beach. Photographer's cardinal sin. If you have to leave your bag down on the beach, push it way, way, way above the waterline. The last thing you want is a rogue wave coming in and ruining your gear. Can't wait to get myself a bag that I can just keep on my back for coastal photography. So the bag is way up the beach. Of course, it doesn't mean that if you forget anything, you have to walk up and down. The coffee, on the other hand, is right by my feet. That goes into the water, I'm going after it. Right. Bit of technical on this here. So shooting at about 1.3 second is the base exposure. F16, as I said, ISO 200. I'm at 18mm on the 18-135, shooting on the Fuji X-T1. Buttons and dials. Oh my lord. Right. Let's just give this a little bit of a kick. I'm not sure whether we're going to get too much of a starburst there just because of that haziness on the horizon, but we'll yeah, so I quite like the light as it's appearing here on the water. But you see, this for me is just a little bit too muddy. Not really a lot going on here in this bit of water. So I might change up my composition. And in fact, that sun's starting to break through. So very soon, I'm going to be pointing in the opposite direction. Right. Always looking for the finer details in your landscape images, even if it's just as a complementary to the main image. So I kind of noticed the little coastal flowers growing on these rocks, and by including that on one of the strong points on the rule of thirds, but including some of the waves at a slower shutter speed in the background, and the light on the rocks actually creates for, I think, quite a nice image, something a little bit different than your regular just coastal waves over rocks. So again, always be looking for those finer details, and this is why this zoom lens is fantastic, because while I'd be shooting sort of 18 to 35mm for the grander view, getting right up to 100mm or even 135mm allowed me just to kind of really bring that little flower as the main interest in the image. Also quite liking how the waves are breaking over the sort of rocks there in the middle, some of the larger waves. The light's kind of catching them quite nice, so here we go, just like that. Been playing about a little bit with that as well. So again, don't just come to a beach and go, right, I'm just going to shoot, Foreground, midground, background, sunshine, long exposure, job done. Really start to look for some of those finer details. And always have coffee. Oh, beautiful. Co.Donegal. You're rather nice. Here, pull out screen. Where have you been all my life? So, we're down low. Kind of love the light on this little rock and how the waves are just washing around it. But of course, previously, on both my Canons and my XE2, I'd have been down at this going, not very good for an old man like me. But just from a composition point of view, just from a checking the finer details on a shot like this, oh, and of course, you know, people say, well, pull out screen, gimmicky, not a professional camera. Well, I say, hobnobs to them. Pull out screen gets my vote. So this next image could actually be beautiful, or I could get swept away. And we're going to hit it now, and again now. So what I'm actually looking for is a wave just slowly lapping around the rock, and also a wave breaking just in the background. Yeah, see, a little bit too much. I want a little wave in the background breaking, and I actually want one just lapping around the rock. So I'm kind of watching for one that isn't going to break too heavily over the rock, so maybe that one. But actually what I wanted then was something in the background, a bit like that one. Oh, retractable screen. I may be spending a long time laying down that. Lovely jubbly. Right. Onward and upward. Quite literally. I'd have been down at this corner.